Hello, and welcome to Jane Wall Street's At the Table podcast. I'm your host, Deirdre. Today, at the head of our table, we have our very first guest, Stephanie Alger. Stephanie is the Chief Growth Officer of League One Volleyball, also known as LOVB. I love that. Stephanie, welcome to our very first episode of the Jane Wall Street At the Table podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for you. You're going to crush this.
Thank you.
I'm excited to watch and be a huge fan.
Well, thank you for being willing to come on this podcast. It's new for me doing this, and at the same time, you know, there's that saying in sports that we all know and love, just do it.
Just do it. It's
so
going to be
we
fine.
decided that we would just get going, and I really appreciate you being willing to be the first guest ever. So I wanted to set the table with some of your background, because I think your path to the C-suite role in the sports business is not a story of climbing up the ranks from the inside like so many of us. And I actually think it's indicative of change that needs to happen in the industry in order for growth to happen. So I'd love for you to give a little bit of background on your passion for the industry and sports, and sort of, you know, how you ended up with 20 years in finance and find yourself in the seat here today.
Yeah, no, and again, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you. So I grew up loving sports. I grew up in New England, where everyone had different backgrounds, different political views, different ethnicities, but everyone loved the New England Patriots. And I just thought it was so interesting that fandom and team could bring people together, to the point that my dad, my parents were divorced. He lived in Massachusetts. My mom lived in New York. And we talked on Sundays unless the Patriots lost, and then we talked on Mondays. I just thought it was so interesting. So I wanted to be the commissioner of the NFL when I grew up. And I went to South Carolina, and I worked for Lou Holtz, who just passed away and was an amazing mentor of mine. Wow. And then Steve Spurrier, who transitioned after Coach Holtz. And when I was graduating, I thought I'd do sports, but I also got degrees in international business and finance, and was very excited about those opportunities too. And Bank of America called, and they invited me to be their investment banking analyst program in capital markets. And back then, you go for 2 years, they kick you out, and you go to business school. So I'm like, perfect, I'll go for 2 years.
Perfect.
Kicked out, go to sports, and that was 20 years ago. So I always made a commitment to myself to go back to the sports route, and I planned it. And so I said by the time I was 40, I wanted to retire and go back to sports. And then in 2016, my mom passed away unexpectedly. She was a paragliding instructor. That says a lot about what you need to know about my upbringing and my mother.
Yeah, amazing.
Very
unique.
special
Very
lady.
Unique, yeah.
And tragically, she died in a paragliding accident. People don't die of paragliding, but it happened. And she died 3 days before starting her dream job as a reading teacher. So in 2016, I'm like, all right, I really have to do this. And so I had an amazing career at Bank of America. I loved all the people I worked with, led, you know, multi-billion-dollar businesses. I was a managing director at a young age. And then my old boss went to Vista Equity Partners to build a credit platform and asked me to come over, knowing I'd retire in a few years. And so 19 and a half years in, I officially retired. I had the great privilege to have some time at Vista to re-meet the sports industry. So with their blessing, I would meet people and not take a job, just say, do you like your job? And people were so generous to me, at the C-suite all the way down to, you know, coaches and general managers in football. I met with agencies saying there's no chance I want to be in a marketing agency. It's not my skill set, but what do they do and how do they do it? And so when I officially was looking to what my next role is, I had some great opportunities and ended up choosing LOVB.
Amazing. There is so much to unpack there. It is incredible. I think the part about just, you know, following your dreams and not always having a easy, straight path to getting there is amazing. I think we can still be friends, even though you're a Patriots fan. I don't think we covered that, and I didn't know that, but I live in a household of all Patriots fans, my husband and my 2 sons, so I can appreciate the fandom in Boston of all Boston sports.
We are a house divided. Everyone in my family is a different type of NFL fan. My son is a Rams fan, and then their dad is a Panthers fan because we live in Charlotte. So, but I believe to being true to your roots. But I had a couple rough years in the 80s and 90s, so the Patriots weren't always amazing. So.
Amazing. So you grew up wanting to be the commissioner of the NFL.
Yeah.
You told me you interviewed with, I think, 21 NFL teams, or met with
21
teams, which is remarkable. That alone is a dream for so many people, or men and women in our industry, to have that opportunity. And yet here you are as the Chief Growth Officer of a professional women's volleyball league.
Yes.
So what about this opportunity? And you joined, I believe, the beginning of the year 2025. So
Correct,
it's been
yeah.
about a year and a half.
That's right.
And what was it about this role that drew you to want to take on this job?
Yeah, so when I met with the NFL, it was very generous. Sam Rappaport, who runs the Women's Forum, was just a huge advocate and ally of mine. And I went to the Women's Forum and met all these great teams. The Women's Forum is more for junior people, and they're like, let's try if a senior person would work. So I learned a lot about the different jobs and realized that might not be the right fit for me in my career at the moment. And so I met for some other CFO positions around the industry because of my finance background. But the reason I chose Love, the recruiting group was amazing. Nolan Partners, Matt Rogers, Chad Biagini, they're now Excel Sports, an amazing group. They saw my background was a little bit different and put me in places that I really didn't belong and were huge advocates. But Love was one of those places I got to do a little bit of everything. So it's a team, it's a league, it's financing, it's youth sports.
Yeah.
It's being able to kind of build strategy, to make mistakes, to be in deals. I have no media experience or marketing. When I joined, I'm like, I know a little bit about a lot of stuff, none in media and marketing. Being able to participate in media marketing deals is fun because in a big company, I would never see them. And now I get to not structure them, but be involved, which is really exciting. And I'm a big advocate for youth sports with my Olympic experience and wanting to get more kids, both girls and boys, into sports these days. So got to be part of a true youth to pro ecosystem and have a lot of exposure. I also love the board. I love the investors. I was able to, launch the league and the team owners and things like that. The league has been amazing and was started well before me. And Love is, about 6 years old, so again, started well before me. But to be able to do so many different things in my quote-unquote first job back in sports was a blessing.
I love it. So when we spoke, I told you that, one of the fun things about doing this show is it's forcing me to get out of my comfort zone. It's also forcing me to learn how to use AI tools.
Yes.
So in a short amount of time, I did a very deep dive on volleyball as an industry, as a sport, and from you and talking to you, I've learned a lot. But I initially did not know about the youth and grassroots origin story of Love. And I think that is really unique in terms of some of the other emerging sports, emerging leagues and properties that are out there, many of whom are also John Wall Street members of our community. And so I'd love you to talk about the origin of Love, the idea, where it came from, and then also, the beginnings of the actual youth part of the platform.
Sure. So Peter Hirschman, the founder, can do a far better job than me, but I'll start and do the best I can. But Peter was in Hawaii and went to a University of Hawaii volleyball match. And it was this crazy, crazy atmosphere. And he said there's something there. So he did a lot of research. He was a serial entrepreneur, had a lot of amazing experience, and decided to start on the youth side. The Pro League was always an idea and always should happen and was planned to happen, but creating that youth foundation to have a very successful long-term league. So they started with a few clubs, and now after 6 years in business, we're approaching 100 clubs in the youth ecosystem, about 26,000 youth athletes across 29 states. And we keep adding every day, it seems. I joke when I'm thinking of numbers, truly, most weeks we have to update because of the impressive growth of that team. And so after a few years in the youth space, that's when they decided to launch the Pro League, have that amazing foundation, great, revenue, EBITDA, et cetera, as a business level on the youth side, and then create that youth to pro atmosphere and launch the league.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting because, as we discussed, so many of the other professional leagues, some which I've been involved with, in an advisory capacity or an investor capacity, are going the direction of having launched the league first, the pro level, and now kind of building that, going back to the grassroots, build the community through the youth side of things.
Yep.
I'm not saying one is right or wrong, but I think to have the youth fan built into the brand and then launch the league on top of that, you have already an audience of young fans.
Sure, yeah. And so volleyball is actually the number one played sport for girls in our country, which people don't realize all the
Sweet.
time.
Go volleyball.
Go
That's
volleyball.
awesome.
I know, it's more than basketball and some other sports. And it's actually the third most played sport on the entire planet. It's men's soccer football, men's basketball, women's volleyball. So there are more than 45 international volleyball leagues out there.
Wow.
So it's just not in the U.S. as known, though it's the number one played sport. Volleyball, some demographics and parts of our country are more avid fans than others. And so it just depends on where you live, how embedded you are in the community. But it's amazing to me on the youth side, not only that embedded fandom, but now with the U.S., what would happen before is great volleyball players would play in a club, love club or not, go to college, and then go overseas to play professionally. We have an amazing talent pool, so most of our players do have professional experience, but now people growing up can see that they can play in the professional league in the U.S. one day.
Yeah, there's something to aspire to.
There's something to
Yeah,
aspire to,
yeah.
exactly. And then with that path, we have more and more people coming into the ecosystem. And boys as well. Last year, about 90% youth female and 10% men or boys. Now we're about 88-12%. So a little bit of an increase, but a marked one.
Yeah, it's amazing. I have two sons. They play
Yeah.
hockey and lacrosse, and we're seeing growth in both sports for the reason of whether it's the USA team
Sure.
in the Olympics or the Four Nations tournament on the hockey side. In lacrosse, the PLL has really
Yeah.
established, similar to what you're doing with Love. So Stephanie, not only do you have this amazing role at Love Volleyball, you're also a mother
Yes.
of how many kids?
3.
3 young kids under the ages of?
They're 13, 5, and 4.
Talk about that, because I think there are a lot of women in the business in general, but the business of sports, we work a lot of nights, we give up a lot of weekends with our family. How are you finding the balance of that, and how does that compare to your experience in the finance industry?
Sure. Finance is similar.
Okay.
So it's interesting. I was the global head of a business, so I had offices in London, Hong Kong, New York, and Paris, and I traveled
Sounds
just
glamorous, that
It
global title.
It's lovely, though you don't sleep that much.
Right,
But I had an
yeah.
amazing team and was very lucky to do it. But I traveled almost full time in my finance role by choice, knowing I wouldn't be in there forever. So I, soaked up every minute. I'm super lucky and recognize this. My kid's dad is a stay-at-home dad. He is able to, help out many, many times, and just is very supportive. His name's Cole Woodlock. We've been separated many years, and still one of my best friends. And my kids are amazing, but I joke with full sincerity. I know sometimes I'm not the best mother, and that's okay. I think you just do the best you can, and kids are pretty resilient, but being present when they're there. So before COVID, my then 7-year-old, now 13-year-old, we used to go to ice cream every Friday, no matter what. But I have those moments. I was actually on a deal call, people listening will know, and I told my oldest son, MJ, just feed the little kids candy for 30 minutes so I can finish this. So again, not the proudest moment ever, but sometimes we have to do things like that.
Yeah.
But I absolutely think you can be a mother if you choose to be one and have an amazing career. And it's just, balancing and knowing sometimes both sides aren't going to work, but it's important to be able to do everything.
There's actually a whole study on this that I recently read that I'll send to you. I'll go look it up. There are great statistics around the outcomes of children of working mothers. So don't be so hard on yourself. You are a great mom. And then the other side of this is now you work in sports.
Yeah.
So find ways to take advantage of the crossover. I mean, for me, my life, one example of that was I'm very close with the Rabel brothers, Paul and Mike Rabel. And when Paul was establishing the Premier Lacrosse League, he approached me. So just for ideas, we were working together on some projects. And, I said, I want to be an investor. I would like to be part of it. And so, and the reason for that was at the time, my kids were much younger than they are today, but they were playing a lot of lacrosse. They still do. And I could bring them to the PLL matches or tournaments and give them a taste of like the opportunity to go on the field before and after the finals and the championships. And that was my way of taking like my experience in the sports industry and sort of marrying it a little bit with my family, because it sounds glamorous, you work in sports, but like sometimes I'm at the Super Bowl watching the Patriots beat the Atlanta Falcons and my husband's at home on the couch watching it with the kids, and that's okay.
I don't have mom guilt on things. I just think it's part of the overall package. So I don't worry when I'm traveling, etc. But my oldest son is very high functioning autism and is an amazing NFL picker. So we every Sunday kind of choose which team is going to win, and he does a great job. But because of that, he always jokes like, could you call them and ask them to, draft this player? Or like, don't you know someone on this team? Can you tell them that the left tackle needs to be paid more? So I think that's, an interesting perk of the life is getting to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes because I'm not an expert on all sports and I'm talking to people across the industry, I use my children as my educational tool because they play a lot of fantasy football, they play a lot of NBA 2K, and so they know all the players. And so I go to them when I need to find out stuff I don't know. So they like being kind of like the inside experts for me. I do want to ask you, you mentioned you're in 29 states.
Correct.
And so I assume the idea is to get to all 50. But can you talk about the geography of volleyball a little bit? Because some of us who live here on the East Coast, and I had asked you like, when are you gonna start a New York team? But I would let you talk about the geography of the sport.
Sure. So in general, the middle of the country, I say, is huge in volleyball. So you have, the Texas, the Nebraskas, the Kentuckys, etc. Southern California is huge. Northeast is less huge. I think, it's changing over time. But that's why people are like, when's New York coming? Like, it's not the next team on the list on the Pro League. You never know. But I think volleyball is just expanding so exponentially that we'll see more states get involved and more, especially honestly with the college space. So with college and NIL, women's volleyball is actually becoming a revenue generating sport.
Yeah.
And, athletes are going in with true NILs and, making money in volleyball, especially with, men's football and Title IX. It's like a natural place to go. So I think as college expands, youth will expand and will expand.
Yeah. My previous role, I was working in Western sports, and we used to call those states the flyover states.
Sure.
Right? And a lot of us in the sports and media industry, not all, but many of us reside in New York or in and around New York or Los Angeles. And so sometimes the visibility on things that are not prevalent in our states, but also just our family life and community can be overlooked. So it's great to see volleyball get elevated.
Yeah. And that Southern California is huge in volleyball. So we have the LA market covered, but we'll come to the Northeast as it expands, I'm sure.
Here you are now, a year and a half. You've launched, is it 6 teams? Is that
so our inaugural teams were 6, and then we have announced a few expansion teams coming with more on the way.
Okay. Can you talk about what those are, what states they're in?
We can talk about the current ones.
Okay.
So our 6 inaugural teams are Madison, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Houston, Texas, Austin, Texas, Salt Lake City, and Atlanta. And we have announced LA, San Francisco, and Minnesota.
Incredible. And you have more coming, so to be announced. To be announced.
And also as we expand very thoughtfully, we want to ensure that we're successful long term and want to have responsible growth. We get calls from many cities saying, please come and bring a love team, and many team owners. And we want to be thoughtful in that growth.
That's great. Well, good to be wanted.
That's right.
And that leads to the next kind of topic, which is talk about the process that you're going through in terms of identifying the teams. You start with, this is a market we know we need to be in, then let's go look for an ownership group that wants to expand a team or own a team in that market. Think of that process of, identifying the right markets to go to and then identifying the right ownership structure.
Sure. So I joined after the league was started, so those inaugural 6 teams I wasn't a part of, but in general, the team chose great volleyball cities, great sports markets. It wasn't always the biggest cities. So Madison, Wisconsin is one of our best markets. I wouldn't say that's the same, demographic as in LA or New York, but amazing fandom and amazing volleyball, Nebraska, et cetera. So the cities chosen originally were for that reason. And starting in season 2, when I joined, we changed the structure from a single entity model and intentionally changed to owner operated. And so we call them team operators. And so our first city we announced was Austin, Texas, which is a great ownership group, the San Antonio Spurs, David Blitzer and Amy Griffith at G9, David Blitzer through his Bolt Ventures portfolio. And so we try to choose people that want to grow the sport, want to grow sports in general, volleyball, great operators. So we have the privilege of most of our ownership groups have either men's professional Big Four experience or are really great entrepreneurs or know how to build businesses. We want people who want to, over time, we currently manage all the athletes, et cetera, and sporting, we call it. Over time, when the team owners manage sporting, we really care about our athletes, how they're treated, cared for. They really are, the reason our sport is successful and our league is successful. And so we're looking for people who want to grow together.
Yeah. As an early stage league, I would ask you, help us understand how you structure the control that the league has versus the team and the ownership groups, from everything from athlete selection, training, all of the on the court aspects of the sport, as well as venue selection, and then sort of all the economic drivers, sponsorship, media rights, merch.
Yes.
What's the balance of league control versus team control?
So we were lucky because we got to build a league that could be different because we kind of were setting the rules. We have amazing legal counsel at Proskauer, so we're very lucky to have them on board with us. We started, again, before
Free shout-outs for Proskauer.
They're amazing. They joke I'm their biggest fan, and I really am. So, but for the first year before I joined, very intentionally, single entity model, and the main goal was to ensure athletes were happy and healthy and, continue to want to play at Love. Starting season 2, kind of walking, crawl, walk, run, getting those team owners involved. And we were kind of in a hybrid year. A team operator could do local sponsorships and things, but it was pretty light touch. Starting in season 3 or next season, I explain it as the team operators run everything off the court.
Okay.
So they're responsible for local sponsorship. They're responsible for, venue selection. We do help out. Venues are really important. People joke, you need great team owners. I'm like, absolutely true. Venue is just as important. You want, a venue that people are not too big, it's not too small, 8 to 11,000, comfortable. So we make sure that is, a key characteristic of the cities we choose. And then local marketing, the teams get to do, food and beverage, parking, all that stuff. The league maintains control of sporting, is what we call it. So, athlete selection, coach selection. We have an amazing sporting team run by Tom Hogan, and he is known in the industry as, players want to play with Tom and respect him a lot. He has a great career. And so he helps manage the teams at the moment, who plays where, creating parity. So one of our stats is last year, most of our games went to the equivalent of overtime. I think it's about 70%, don't want to misquote. But overtime is, set 4 and 5. So because of that, that means kind of any team could win. Our finals was won by Austin. They actually were in last place going into the final. Oh, wow. So it really creates that excitement, that fandom. And as we want people to enjoy the game they're watching, especially new fans, you want it to be exciting. You want it to, be, many sets and long. And so that's kind of what the team owners manage. And as mentioned, the league manages not only sporting, but also, national sponsorships, media, merchandise we do together.
Okay.
So we have a great merchandise team. I have the pleasure of leading it right now. We have a teammate, Morgan, who came from Victoria's Secret, and Perry from Disney. So really thinking about what makes merchandise fun for that Gen Z demographic, as well as their parents. So we can talk a little bit about that. But that's kind of how it's structured now. Over time, it'll probably go more traditional league, but we wanted to ensure that the team operators focus on what they're good at.
Right.
And we, not me, but our sporting team and others focus on what we're good at, which is the volleyball side.
Yeah, and you want consistency, and like you said, on the competition side, you want some parity so that it's exciting. And I would think that's the same across all these other aspects, whether it be the way in which different teams execute in-arena sponsorships, because that's going to end up in your broadcast, right? So do you feel that given your athletes are coming from overseas, a lot of them, and they're marketable there, is that a big strategic growth opportunity for you down the line where you could go and do either tournaments or exhibitions in some of those markets where volleyball is very prevalent and already established?
It is. I mean, we have a lot of international growth we want to do, even on the merchandise side. I mean, we had 10% of our viewers for a game in China. So why don't we figure out how to get merch there, et cetera? I think there's so much growth in the U.S. as well, and getting these amazing, professional athletes. Overseas, volleyball players can make, $1 million+ and so it's a real, intense sport outside of the world, outside of our country. So we look for a lot of different reasons that we can work both different countries as well as bringing players to ours.
Yeah, I love that you're so focused on digital and social growth. I think it's so critical. Television is important. It's not going away like everyone wants to believe or say cable is dead. It is dying a slow death though, right? It's changing. Mm-hmm. It's going from linear cable and broadcast to more streaming platforms. You're across a multitude of those, which is very good. But then in terms of like young generation, like kind of like, do they even watch live sports is a question sometimes you get asked. I think, and I come from a background of like lots of digital background, right? And I worked at Barstool Sports where we had no live rights to anything and we had no linear distribution on anyone's network, and we built one of the biggest brands.
People still watched,
Yeah, we built a huge brand off the internet and podcasts and whatnot. So from a content perspective, how are you thinking about growing those channels? Are you in-house generating new original content? Are you doing that with influencers? And I know you've mentioned some celebrities that have had big viral moments because they're not only wearing your merch, but they're getting into the content.
Yeah, I joke volley parents rule our planet. It's amazing who have kids being volleyball players. But yeah, so at Love, we obviously, we're structured as a holding company with portfolio companies, and things we're focused on growing in the future are our merchandise business and our media and content business. And so there's been a lot of success in that space and figuring out more ways, not only in the fandom perspective, but bringing volleyball to more eyeballs. And so I think, again, when you watch it, it's so successful and so exciting. Also with our athletes, building their brands. And so we've done some short form series. We have some, longer form content. We have some production partners. Omaha Production is someone we've been working with, and kind of some more of those crossover opportunities, alternative cast, et cetera. So we're really focused on that. And then as the team owners take over their, local social and marketing, et cetera, we look forward to other opportunities with their portfolios too. Our Houston team is owned by the Houston Texans, and they're an amazing organization. What can we do with them and others?
Yeah, it's a real opportunity. I've seen this too, to like get those folks together, whenever you guys all convene for business meetings, and share best practices, because everybody's doing it a little bit differently and seeing different things work and not work. But everybody's got the same objective. Is like, we want our team to win at the end of the season.
Yes.
But we want the sport to grow, right? So how do we help one another do that? I think that's a big opportunity. But going back to the celebrities, because you mentioned some names, and I want to talk about that.
Sure. So volleyball, again, like I joke, volley parents rule the planet. One of our highest hits just the other day in merchandise land, we have a T-shirt that says, "I'm in my volley dad era," and LeBron James posted on it. Other parents, post.
That's
a good one, right?
Good marketing. You can't pay for that.
We have a Skims deal, and some of the leadership at Skims are volley parents. And Kim Kardashian posted on one of her stories. I think it had 385 million views.
Oh my goodness.
There's not that many people in the U.S., which is always amazing.
Yes.
That's a lot of reach. But also our investors. We have a lot of volley parents, some celebrities, athletes. Some we name Kevin Durant's been a great ally, Billie Jean King, and others. And so I think that in the beginning, it's important to have, voices that can tell your story. And now people are realizing, some from the beginning, but a lot more now, is it's a true business opportunity. And this is not, fluffy. This is exciting things that are going to grow and be smart money investments.
Yeah. You just dropped some really incredible names. So I think, it's really incredible to be saying LeBron James, Kim Kardashian, and Billie Jean King all in the same
And LeBron is an investor.
sentence.
He, posted something, so I want to be clear. But very good allies.
But that's like just incredible for the sport. So awesome. we have another podcast at John Wall Street called The Big Business in College Sports, and we recently had the AD on from Ohio State, and he was talking about the 4 revenue-sharing sports, and volleyball being one of them. And you mentioned that volleyball is a revenue-generating sport at the collegiate level. So I think for that, now you're having college athletes that are they're getting paid, they're probably getting NIL deals, endorsements with brands and the like. Does that open up a door for you to have more marketable players that are more of an established known name in the United States? And how does that become a pipeline for you, the next generation of players? I mean, a lot like what's going on right now from the NCAA basketball into the WNBA. These names have become household names before they've left college.
Yes. No, absolutely. It's interesting because we began the season with no college players because we have all this amazing professional talent. With some injuries, we have some great college players now. Logan's Texas A&M, a national champion, and now plays for one of our teams. And bringing that fandom right from college to the pros is amazing. Alexi Rodriguez was one of our players last year who joined. Madison Skinner is another one. And so these, younger, amazing athletes that might not have the professional experience bring their, fandom and their athleticism. Madison Skinner was actually our MVP while being a quote-unquote rookie. So it's exciting to see. In the next few years, there's some amazing college talent coming out, and so we look forward to inviting some of those players to join our league. And I think to your point, these athletes in college are becoming superstars and have this all embedded fandom, and we look forward to having them join Love.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I also learned in my deep dive that there are actually 4 professional volleyball leagues in the U.S. alone. And you mentioned some of the international ones that are more established, but you have 4 professional leagues, including the AVP, which is beach volleyball.
Yes.
But all have their own unique formats, own models, like really unique. Do you have a point of view on, like, can the market sustain this many professional leagues in your sport? Does it lead to, down the line, some consolidation, or is, like, a rising tide is lifting all boats?
Yeah, I think it could be all of the above. So AVP on beach is a little different. So we see them as ecosystem allies. And actually, Athletes Unlimited, John Patrikoff, we allow our players who are employees, all our athletes are employees, to be out of their contract to do Athletes Unlimited. So we want them to play in the off season. We are huge fans, super supportive. And so we don't see them as competitors, but an ecosystem ally. Major League Volleyball, it was Professional Volleyball Federation, and then Major League Volleyball. They had a breakup and then a merger back together. Right. We have a lot of respect for them. Their business model is a little bit different, athletes a little bit different, but I've had the pleasure of getting to know them well over the past year. I think at the moment, the more volleyball eyes, the better.
Sure.
And I've been to one of their games, super fun, very amazing, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't unique to volleyball either, right? In so many sports right now, there are emerging properties that are emerging alongside some of the most established leagues. I mean, today, it's actually March 18th, where we're recording this, and today was the announcement of the WNBA finally got their CBA resolved with their Players Association, which is exciting for the WNBA, for all the players, and for all the fans, because they can actually start their season on time. And but you have the rise of unrivaled basketball, which is also having some really remarkable early success from everything we're hearing and reading.
And WSL, USL, and the Super League for the USL, 2 Tier 1 divisions that are both being successful. So I look forward to seeing.
Yeah. We talked a little bit in the green room, too, about, our community is about networking with peers, other executives within the sports industry and ecosystem. And you talked about, like, hey, if I need to know something, I'll pick up the phone and call another executive. And hopefully our platform is bringing people together in a way that fosters those interactions. But, can you talk a little bit about, like, learning from your peers and others within the sports industry to inform the decision-making that you're doing at Love?
Yes, sure. I actually bring it back to my finance days. So I led structuring for equity. So we built math and built products that didn't exist. And so if we were the only one who had the product, actually wasn't helpful because it was too niche. So we would share as much as practical with our partners at JP Morgan and others. So I'm used to, sharing and collaborating and learning. I love to learn. It's my favorite thing. I know, 10% of what I'd like to know. I'd like to learn a lot more. I will never be the media expert or the marketing expert or the lot of experts. And so my philosophy is know what I know really well, help people out however I can. So, whether it's private equity or financing or structuring or building leagues or, making team owners, successful, et cetera. I've got you. Everything else I'd like to learn from others. So I think I'm so lucky this, industry has embraced me with open arms, that I've built real relationships. I joke, I call everyone humans. And I'm like, how are you as a human? Or let me know you as a human. And so by building those real relationships, I feel very comfortable picking up the phone and asking, and the other way around. We did a deal with a group, and someone was going to do a similar, like, hey, how did you structure? What do I need to know that's public that you can share with me? If we took the time to learn everything by ourselves, we would never be successful, I think. So
Right.
The more we can tap into our networks and help each other out, I'm just a huge believer in it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you have such a unique background. And for anyone that's listening and interesting, you should go check out Stephanie's background on LinkedIn and all the accomplishments she had in the finance industry. Funny little secret about me, my new moniker here, Jane Wall Street. I worked in finance for about 9 months before I realized
9 months?
It was not for me. I worked at a hedge fund in San Francisco called Standard Pacific Capital.
Amazing.
And I learned a lot. I didn't go to business school, so for me it was like a fast learning on the finance industry, and I was like in and out of there pretty quick. But and it was probably because I was young, right out of college, and I was working like New York market hours in San Francisco, so it was a little brutal. Your background is one where I had to almost read it twice to really think through, like, well, what is her background? Because I don't come from the finance industry, so it's amazing to think how much you must be learning in this job, because for many of the executives who are at this level in the sports industry, they will have spent those 20 years, like I said, climbing up the ranks at some league, team, or media industry in the sports space. So it just must be, you love to learn, so it's fun, but does it ever get overwhelming, or you just find you go outside and find through your network the answers to the questions you have?
It's interesting because I get the question a lot. I've run multi-billion-dollar businesses most of my career, so it's really running a different business with a different amount of zeros. In the end, it's making more money than you spend, having positive P&L, managing a business, being a good leader, being an expert in whatever you're an expert in, and utilizing the other teammates to be experts. Merchandise is a great example. I joke I buy my clothes on Amazon. But with the merchandise business, it's about margins, it's about speed to market. We used to build everything in-house. Now we have some great vendors assist. We have some amazing collaborations. I'm trying to think what is public and announced. Little Words bracelets, Love AJ. Yeti is one of our logos on Austin. We have some great products with them, great partnerships. So that I know. So it's how to treat people with respect and kindness, and build businesses, make quick decisions, being thoughtful, respectful. I have a math brain, so usually I can do the pros and cons of that well. And then investment side, in the end, most of sports, there are investors. Whether it's a sponsored back league, whether it's a family office, people are putting their money into something, and we need to give a return and be good stewards of the money. I've done that for 20 years.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't know media, but I love to learn it. And, some of the production, like ticketing, is an amazing thing to learn about, and all the nuances of ticketing and pricing and, venue selection,
That's nice that you're positive on ticketing, because ticketing is a rough one. But yes,
Yeah, our teammate Travis does a great job there. But again, that's something the team owners will, now take over it, and they're great at it. So I don't need to be the expert in everything. I just am good at what I'm good at, and look forward to working with people on the rest.
Yeah. So with that focus on the financial side and the P&L, are you profitable or on your way to becoming profitable, and are the teams profitable?
Yeah, so from a league, we're stable, which we were very intentional of building a league that was stable and doesn't need more investment from our ink level, which we're very excited about. And youth, we're doing a great job as well. So we're definitely on our way, and I'm excited for where we're at.
That's awesome. Well, congrats on that. That's a huge accomplishment unto itself. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of interest in your league, which is great from an investment standpoint. And so many of our listeners are here because they want to invest in sports and emerging sports, and they're trying to decide what are the smart investments out there. So how do you vet the investors that you're bringing in? How important is it to you to just have the money come in on the timeline you need it, or versus, finding folks that are strategic in ways that will help grow the sport, grow your league?
Sure. So we're super lucky. We have kind of two different cap tables. We have our team owners and operators, as well as our investors at Inc. or holding company. So money is always helpful, but actually what we find is more important is our ecosystem partners. Some of our great partners, there's so many of them, but Project Level, Melody Hobson, Jason Wright, as part of Ariel Investments, they actually just announced their $1 billion fundraise they're going through. So obviously feel free to take a look at that. But what they are really special about is the help they give to us in terms of research, in terms of their portfolio companies, just extra arms and legs and knowledge based on their past experience. Bolt Ventures has been amazing. It's David Blitzer's family office. They have so much experience. They've seen things in so many leagues. So as we're building our league rules and documents and structure, we can learn from what other things, other leagues are doing in a very appropriate, public way. And so I think that as you bring people onto the table, it's not just a transaction like your M&A, you're buying and selling and never see each other again. The investment is the first step. Mm-hmm. And then you build the long-term relationship of building the league. So I think it's really important to have respectful and respected allies working and building the company together.
Yeah, and I've seen over the years, I've been at a lot of startups in the sports space. I've seen the good and the bad of different types of investors and what their interests are and their expectations and being aligned from the start, what those are. In the world of professional sports, at the highest levels, NFL, all the way to the emerging sports leagues and now women's sports, there's so much investment, as you're saying, coming into it. A lot of people want the access that it also provides. So yes, they want to make sound investments. They want to see a long-term, return on that investment. But they also want to come and be part of the team, know the athletes, bring their kids on the field after the championship and celebrate with everyone. And so there's an emotional aspect to it.
Right. There's a funny story. Hannah McNair, one of our owners in Houston, one of the players was deciding if they re-sign or not, and Hannah went and talked to them and, encouraged her involvement, et cetera. So I think people both attending, being supportive, wanting to grow the sport is really interesting. And also the other people around the table. Our team ownership group is amazing. To be involved in that table and on that boardroom will be special for everybody.
Yeah.
And so we actually have some potential team owners who may not have invested before and have the means to, but basically seeing who they'll be associated with is a very compelling strategy.
Yes, absolutely. They want to be around, they want to have the community around them of all the other owners as well.
Exactly.
Well, that's all I have for you today, Stephanie, but thank you so much for joining me today on episode 1 of the At the Table podcast presented by Jane Wall Street. And we look forward to continuing the conversation with you, watching your league grow, the successes that you're having, and hopefully have you back on here, down the line when you've announced more expansion teams and all the things that you're working on today have really kind of taken to the next level.
I'm so excited to support you and Corey and others, and I will be a huge fan.
Stephanie, thank you so much. Well, before we let you go, I wanted to just tell our listeners when and where they can tune in to watch the Love Finals, because those are coming up in April.
That's right, the USA Network. So it's the weekend of the 17th, and we look forward to having people watch us.
Awesome. Well, don't forget to tune in to Love Volleyball on USA, and that's exciting. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Quick plug for John Wall Street. I actually met Stephanie just a few weeks ago for the first time in person at a John Wall Street IQ members-only dinner. John Wall Street is an exclusive invitation-only membership community designed for high-level sports and media executives, including team owners, league CEOs, and investors. Its membership includes many C-suite executives, owners and investors, athletic directors, and senior media tech founders. Its purpose is to help industry leaders see around the corners and network with peers that are navigating the same opportunities and challenges in the sports industry. Members gain access to private virtual communities, thematic research reports, and in-person tentpole events. To learn more about becoming a member and joining the community, head over to johnwallstreet.com. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for the John Wall Street newsletter. It's free, and it's a must-read for executives in the sports industry. And I will have a monthly column there for Jane Wall Street, so make sure you sign up. If you found this conversation interesting and useful, please share it with your industry colleagues, and please like and comment on any future guests that you would like to have here or have a seat at our table. And shout out to our team of excellent producers here at ASL Studios here in New York City.